History is broken. All recorded knowledge more than 300 years old has been corrupted. The Starfinder Society is recruiting outsiders to unravel the mysteries of what happened. Unlikely heroes must learn to work together to stay alive, where technology and magic exist together among the stars. Dead Sundays, most Sundays at 7 p.m. Only on twitch.tv/Logar the Ogar. The past haunts us all.
The past haunts us all.
Again.
The past, I don't know if you guys have heard of this. The past is broken.
What?
Yeah. Unfortunately for you guys,
Now
the future also broken.
Now you tell me.
The present, not doing real well.
Yeah.
Nah, kind of on the cusp of, it's all down to, unfortunately, Clara now is the only person that can save us by weaving in and out of each of the timelines to fix each one to make, I don't know, a tapestry of adventure and science fiction, high fantasy for you guys. Right? That makes sense.
I love it.
Dead Sundays, the next thing to go multiverse. Great.
Well, the thing is, the Starfinder is already multiverse. There is a class called the Witch Warper, which literally is the complement to the precog. Precog is kind of like
precog is time, and Witch Warp is space/dimension.
Witch Warper is you are like the magic that you do. And I'm probably describing this probably a little wrong, but the magic that you do is constantly searching through the realities to find the one where you want the outcome to happen. So the spell that you cast, like if you're going to cast Fireball, you're looking for a reality where you cast Fireball, and then you grab it, and then you cast
switch
it.
To that.
That's how I understand it.
That means
I want that spell that lets me find the dimension where we all have cowboy hats on.
like I would like.
Yeehaw!
I want to meet our Starfinder crew where all of us are bugs except for Zib.
Speaking of, Steph Hotcakes Deluxe Zib Beverage could not be here tonight. We are going to do the recap without them. It's totally cool. Doesn't matter.
Being gay on the streets, and God bless them. More power to them.
Oh yeah.
Be proud.
Book 3. Splintered Worlds was the one that we most recently went through. The one that you guys probably remember the most. Let's start at the beginning of the book, which is the middle of the story. You guys left Castrovel. You had done your whole shebang on Castrovel. You had gotten a nice reward. The reason that you were leaving was to trace a signal that was sent to somewhere in the diaspora. You had the relative location of where it was, but because it was an asteroid belt, you couldn't get the exact chunk of rock. Asteroid belts in Starfinder are more like the asteroid belts in Star Wars, where they are dangerous and you have to weave in and out of them. Asteroid belts in real life aren't like that at all. They are huge distances between the asteroids and in the real life asteroid belts. But that's not exciting. So in this, and in Star Wars and in Starfinder, the asteroid belts are very densely packed with rocks of different sizes, and because of that, you couldn't figure out where you were supposed to go exactly. So the only thing you could do was just go. Leaving Castrovel, you took your new party member, Clara247, and her NPC counterpart, Jinder Seer, and your NPC that is kind of a robot, but is also kind of part of the ship, but nobody's really sure what's going on with that. Mentioned it once, never mentioned it again. Nobody asked any questions, so we just went with it. Shepard, who's been with you since episode 0. Welcome to Dungeons and Dragons.
Well, okay, I will say that I did investigate and inspect Shepard, and then I was like, I think you gave me. I don't remember what my role is, but I think I was just like, oh, okay, I guess this is fine.
But yeah, that did happen. You tried to, like, there was no information to gain. Just like, yeah, he he did the thing that he said that he did. Yeah. End of conversation.
Yep. There now, I guess. I don't know.
So you guys had to travel to the diaspora to find a destination of a signal that contained some sort of information related to a doomsday cult called the Cult of the Devourer, as well as the location of a super weapon known as, well, I don't know if you knew what its name was yet. The location of a super weapon that had been discovered by the ancient peoples of Castrovel. Obviously, a doomsday cult getting their hands on a super weapon of galactic proportions would be probably really bad.
Probably.
I don't know. It might be pretty mid. I don't know. Who knows? We'd have to just let it play out.
55-45. So
What if it's cool?
So here's the thing. It's gotta be really fucking cool. There's no way that a galactic super weapon is not kind of cool.
why build it if it's not cool?
So you go to the diaspora. You arrive in the general vicinity of the asteroid belt. The place that you're going to was a group of rocks called the Field of the Lost. All of the diaspora had kind of like named its little islands of rocks. And the diaspora was a place that people lived, but it was mostly a place where people hid. There are people, there are some people that spend their whole lives there. There's actually a human, I'm reading the character operations manual right now. There is a human variant that is about people who grew up on the diaspora and other low gravity places, and they end up being taller and skinnier and have huge dexterity bonuses and bigger constitution penalties, which I thought was really interesting. So this place that you were going was not necessarily a nice place, but it wasn't a bad place either. It wasn't any more dangerous than anywhere else you were going to go. Once you got to the Field of the Lost, you kind of started to roam around looking for where you thought you were supposed to go, and you met the coolest person that you've ever met in your entire life.
It's the pirate. It's the pirate
Whose
lady.
name was Alara Aquana. And I'm going to show you a picture of her. I thought there was going to be a picture on this screen. When you met up with this pirate, her name was Alara Aquana. She was very cool, and she was also very cool to you guys. One of the things that she said was like, hey, I could just blow you up because you are in uncharted pirate space. But instead, we could negotiate if you wanted to negotiate. You guys decided to negotiate. You each paid a toll of 500 credits, and in that conversation, Alara gave you the location of an asteroid that she thought there might be some Devour cultist dickheads on, which was exactly where you wanted to go. So you paid 2,000 credits for safe passage, and then you ended up having the destination to go to where you wanted to go to anyway. The asteroid that you landed on was dusty and desolate and nasty, and you had several encounters with several different kinds of creatures. The first one was a crazed Sarkazian who was one of the natives of the Drift. They are a kind of short race of people that have these diaphanous void light wings that only come out when they're in the vacuum. They tried to snipe at you from atop of the mountain, and you managed to climb your way up there and fight him, and then he touched a thing on his jacket and he disappeared, which is always a great time for everybody that doesn't have to fight that guy.
I hated this guy.
I loved this guy. He was a sniper who was a Sarkazian, and he tried to kill you guys as you walked further onto the asteroid. Eventually, when you found his pack, you found his journal, you realized that he was someone who had... What's that?
A jerk.
He was actually just having a bad day, and he came to the asteroid to cool off, and eventually, through his weird ramblings in his journal, you kind of put together that he was suddenly or gradually put under the thrall of some other monster, and that at some point his personality had been lost and he was just defending the area for this monster whose thrall he was under. After you defeated him, you walked 10 feet to this area, A2, and you had another encounter, which was you were waist deep in the silvery ash that made up a lot of the asteroid surface. And as you were exploring this cave, you realized that behind all of the stalactites and stalagmites were these winged creatures that would fly at you and screech at you, called Screelings. Screelings hunted in packs. It wasn't a difficult fight, but it was a fight that was designed to make you frustrated because they could fly and you were in difficult terrain the entire time. This is the Screeling that was in...
Is that the dude that could only be hurt with metal?
So...
Get special little shards on our weapon.
After you guys fought the Screelings, I think Pax probably, the Xeno Warden, I correctly identified this small creature as a Screeling, and a Screeling eventually grows up into what's called a Screesire, and a Screesire is a horrible, disgusting creature that will telepathically command other creatures to protect its clutches of eggs. The legs that you saw on the Screeling would fall off, and eventually a mass of tentacles would grow, and it would become ambulatory on the ground. A Screesire looks like this.
Ugh.
Not only is the Screesire terrifying to look at, it can also enthrall you telepathically. It was immune to acid, which is important. It also had a damage reduction that can only be overcome with cold iron. Once you guys fought the Screelings, you didn't continue on the path. You actually went back to the ship because you had 2 back-to-back encounters, which had only taken an hour. So you spent the next 23 hours on the ship just resting until something else happened. When you left, you went the other way and you went up to this A5. And on this A5, you found piles of cold iron shavings. Remembering that the thing that they were definitely going to fight was a Screesire whose damage reduction was overcome by cold iron, Horatio had the brilliant idea to permanently adhere chunks and slivers of the cold iron to all of the melee weapons that the crew was carrying, which was a brilliant idea. I talked to a couple people about that, and they said that, maybe it was because it's a level 0 spell, and it's a level 0 spell that came out after the adventure was written.
Right.
So I'm sure that they had not thought of it by then.
So what exactly were you supposed to do instead? Lead the Screesire over to the A5 or
I don't know. I think
it can be overcome with cold iron. Most people at our level haven't gotten access to that. Oh, here's a big pile of cold iron right over here on the same asteroid. What
it's like giving someone the ingredients for a cake, but not the oven. And there's here's a couple bags of flour and a dozen eggs. Go do something with it. And it's this is nothing.
This is nothing.
I think what they wanted you to do was get a big chunk and use it as an improvised weapon.
I was gonna say if because there is an
Proficiency for that.
There's a archetype
Facts.
of necromancer who can create things out of junk.
Yes.
They basically have shitty magneto powers. So that makes sense because if I went that path with Technomancer, I could literally just create a whole bunch of little robot men.
Yeah.
Off
The
stuff lading around just to jump on that guy.
The Great Grav Train Robbery features a Junkmancer named Kavan, who is everybody's favorite NPC, the uplifted bear.
Yeah.
Who rejected his parents' ties to organized crime and just being the muscle and decided to study technomancy, and he is a Junkmancer. And his whole thing is he can create junk at will, and then he can use that to summon it up and stick it to himself, and now he's got heavy armor. It's really cool.
I can create junk at will too, but all it does is just make States tell me to clean the apartment.
Yeah. Oh, I can create junk.
No one calls it magic when I do it.
So after you guys found these piles of cold iron, you attached them to the weapons. I thought it was such a great idea that I wasn't going to offer any penalty. As a couple other people said, well, you should have given them like maybe a -1 because it was unwieldy. That's not fun at all. This is great. I love this. So we went with that. You guys took your modified weapons and walked over to this pile over here. This pile was a pile of bodies that had been eviscerated, decapitated, burned, yada, yada, yada. Just a bunch of dead bodies in a pile. All of which were wearing or adorned with something pointing them to belonging to the cultists of the Devourer. Which was weird, because you were looking for a base of the cultists, not a pile of their dead bodies. You continued searching, and you eventually made your way over to this acid pool. And once you investigated the acid pool, the Screesire, I think, tempted Pax to look over the side of the acid pool.
I thought it was either me or you.
It might have been Horatio.
I don't think it was Pax.
I think it was me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Somebody looked over the side of the acid pool and was attacked by the Screesire as it came out, who then tried to drag them into the acid pool. If you're wondering, and we did find out this for sure at the end of the adventure, how much damage you take if you are submerged in acid. It is 10d6 acid damage per round if you are submerged in acid.
And a computer chip spits out of your mouth. Yeah.
And your head pops off and a computer chip spits out of your mouth. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that later. I want to actually see if it's the same in the back of the book. Yeah. Interesting. So in this part of the book, anyone who touches the pool takes 2d6 acid damage each round for she is in contact with it. Anyone who swims in the pool or becomes otherwise fully submerged in it takes 10d6 acid damage per round. However, if you go to the back of the book, I guess maybe because this one is really deep, it says any creature touching the pool takes 3d6 acid damage per round. Swimming or fully submerged creatures take 20d6.
It's just stronger acid.
I guess it's just better. Because you know why? Because this is asteroid acid, and the last one is Eox acid.
Yeah, Eox doesn't.
Different acids.
All the good acid,
acid.
all the good acid in Eox is used for like cosmetic stuff and industrial shit. So
it's used to grow flesh.
Yeah, I mean, bone whitening is a big deal over there. So they would be using the acid for that.
I'm gonna get my bone hole bleached.
Yeah.
So you fought the Screesire, which clawed its way out of the acid. At the end of book 2, Tahoman, the real shitty guy, was wielding a acid blaster, which shot 15 feet and was just like a super soaker filled with acid, which is one of the best weapons that you guys had come along with so far. And we gave it to Zib, and the first thing that Zib tried to do was shoot this acid immune monster with their brand new cool gun. So as far as, I know that the adventures are written by different people. However, I just felt like that was a huge oversight to give somebody an acid gun at the end of the book, and then the next big encounter, they're immune to the thing you just gave them to. However, I've gotten over this. And what do you know? You got to the Screesire, you killed the Screesire, and right there in front of the acid pool under a pile of ash was a secret entrance to a secret base inside of the asteroid. Once you got inside, what you later learned was called the Star Eater Spine, the Star Eater being another name for the Devourer, the evil god of entropy, destruction, and chaos that is ever prevalent in the universe. You searched what you came to realize was an abandoned cultist base. You were very much expecting to walk in and see lots and lots of people. However, once you... What's that?
I was like, shit, we got a big fight.
Yeah. But when you got there, you just saw like this huge pile of cultist bodies. And you're like, huh, that's weird. And then once you got inside, you realized that the base had been abandoned. While exploring, you came across a couple of different traps. The first of which was a mold spore thing that shot out of the vents over the front door. So when you guys tried to access it, you all breathed in these mold spores that made you stupid. They made you mean and they made you stupid. That's what the book said that they did. Luckily, someone doesn't breathe at all.
Yeah.
And didn't breathe in the spores and did not go crazy and did not get stupid. It specifically says that the spores and the way that this trap is designed is that the spores are small enough that they won't get caught in a suit's environmental protections. So it is specifically made for spacesuits that are going to filter out spores in order to get past them. The second trap that you found was in B3, which is right here, where the Resident Evil hallway of lasers shot out in this entire thing. But luckily, you guys were able to access the computer and turn it off. Once you access the computer, you realize that there was a bigger computer somewhere else, and that in order to find the information that you needed, like what you were looking for the message that Tahoman had sent. And in order to find that, you had to go find the bigger computer. You searched the whole thing. There was a fight with a couple robots. There was a fight with some kind of fucking lizard thing.
Was that the thing that we thought was a dog but wasn't a dog?
Right. So what happened was you guys went up here to B7, and which you can't see apparently. And while you guys were fighting in here, I decided to have, because you guys were actually doing a little too well for my liking. You guys were doing really well, so I decided to throw a curveball at you, and I had the Veilisk sneak up behind you guys. The Veilisk was a really nasty lizard that had smoke constantly coming out of his eyes, and it had a basilisk-like stare attack that could do something to you. A Veilisk embodies the claustrophobic, dark, and often maddening aspects of space, and it can project a sliver of the void into its enemies with its mere gaze. A creature that fails a DC 16 will saving throw against this gaze ability is confused until the beginning of its next turn. This is a mind-affecting effect. So, this thing looks at you, and you look deep into its eyes, and you drink deep from the void, and you forget what you're doing. Which I think happened to Pax. And even though Pax was confused, when you're confused, you roll a die to determine what you're going to do. Pax rolled to attack the nearest creature to him, which was the Veilisk, which was right in front of him. So even in the depths of the maddening void, Pax is still like, punch monster, punch big monster. Of course. Why would I do anything else? In your confused state, you stare into the eyes of the Veilisk, and the smoke is pouring out, but there is this piercing blackness at the bottom of them. And you imagine yourself falling through its eyes, and you can't really tell where you are. You're stuck in this, like, plane of existential blackness, and there's these bright white dots around that you are clearly supposed to represent suns, but you cannot possibly understand how you suddenly woke up, went from a fight to a plane of darkness. And immediately in front of you is the only thing that you can focus on, which is the Veilisk. You take one small step forward to close the distance between you. You raise your sword and you chop its head off, immediately ending your confused state.
Is it dead?
Yo!
That's what I'm here for, even if I'm confused. Biggest thing, punch it.
The more you explored, the more you realized that the base had been not abandoned, but there was no emergency when they abandoned it. It wasn't because they left because it was falling apart or something. They had all found something out. The cultists had learned something, and because of that, they all got their shit together and left. While you were searching, you found a data pad that had a recording on it. The recording was two cultists repeating a prayer over and over again. It was about a doomsday prophet named Nyara. And one of the things that they kept saying over and over again was, Nyara knows, Nyara knows. It was a prayer that they had created from Nyara's prophetic writings that they worshipped as gospel. As you guys explored more, you also found a large chunk of dead flesh, or more specifically, undead flesh that had a necrograft on it, which you guys all thought was super duper weird. And you also found a bag of grenades that had the Corpse Fleet logo on it. And this, I think, was your first real confirmation that the Corpse Fleet existed and was doing something around you. I think, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, when you guys first came into the asteroid belt, you asked the cool pirate if anybody else had come through, and she had just said, a couple of bone ships came through, but they were way bigger than our ship, so I just let them go. More exploring, and you found yourself in front of the supercomputer terminal that ran the whole base. Unfortunately, you guys were still stupid and angry at each other, so I think it took all of you together aiding each other to aid Clara to hack into the system to get the information that you needed. Oddly enough, the password to the computer was Nyara knows, but you had to play it from the vid recording, so it would recognize one of your guys' voice. I don't actually remember how you got, if you guys hacked it or if you played the thing or what actually happened, but you got into the computer.
Yeah, we for sure didn't use any voice recordings, because I just remember, I think Zib was the one who actually pressed buttons, and then I did it in aid, because the reasoning, and it was a little bit of above the table metagaming, but my reasoning was like, my bonus is higher, so I could potentially have at least give you a +1, which Zib would not be able to do.
Right. We mathed it out in a way that you weren't able to do it on your own because you were stupid. But what you could do is you could pass the aid test. And if you pass the aid test, it would give Zib enough of a bonus that they could do it. And I'm pretty sure that's what happened.
Yeah.
What you learned...
+2 or something. Anyway.
I think aid gives +2. And so what you learned was you finally found the message that had been sent to the asteroid in the diaspora. However, once you listened to the message, it was Tahoman telling the Devourer cultists that he had found something preemptively, boasting about defeating the Starfinders that were chasing him and his crew through the jungle. He ends the transmission with saying, "Our future awaits far beyond the confines of the Star Eater's spine. You must fly, my sisters and brothers, fly to," and then it went static, "where the key awaits." When you dug deeper and you analyzed the message further, you realized that the static was because someone had gone in and removed that part of the message. The other thing that you learned as you dug even deeper was that the person who removed the destination from the message that you guys were listening to was none of the cultists. It had been done at a time and by a person that was not related to the cultists. The only thing that you could assume was that someone from the Corpse Fleet had come in after the cultists had left, taken what was left of the place, and removed the important information from the computer terminal. So we went back to the ship. And while you were on the ship, we had our Sharonica holiday adventure. One night, before you guys decided what you're going to do, you guys took a rest. The hostess needed you guys once again. I forget what the rewards were this time, but you had...
where I got the special sticker that let me deal holy damage to undead creatures. I think that was where I got that.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense because I was like, somebody has to have one of these. Like, there's no way that, like, because you're about to go. I don't think you guys knew that yet. Yeah, I don't think you knew yet, but I remember, like, you took it. The hostess gave it to you, and she was like, "Yeah, it'll help you if you ever fight anything undead." And Clara was like, "Oh, neat. And then 2 episodes later, you're like, oh, that's why.
I love that Clara gets this super useful like sticker, and I got a fungal infection.
No, well, you got Pax. You be grateful for what you got.
I'm grateful for what I got.
I know. You got the Wild Wise, which lets you communicate with animals. It lets you communicate with animals who have an intelligence of 1 or 2, which also came up later for on the adventure in Eox. And I don't remember what Horatio got. I hope he remembers right now because I'm not going to. Oh, you got that's right. You weren't there. You got
night classes.
You got the no. The night classes was from the other thing. Was from the university. You got the spell chip for your special spell cache thing that we never really worked out. Anytime that you cast a spell using your spell cache, you add a +4 to the saving throw to it. I don't remember what Zip got. It was the grenade gloves, which were super important.
The gloves of good throwing.
The gloves of good throw. One of my favorite item descriptions I've ever wrote, which was they were developed by the Arcana Miriam sages after they were having a lot of trouble with their pickup hyperball games and they were tired of getting beat. So they made these gloves that make them throw better. After your adventure in the for the hostess, the next day you were hanging around on the ship. Getting ready to leave, trying to figure out what to do, trying to talk to Chiskisk, wasn't really sure what was going to happen. And after you got off the phone with Chiskisk, who recommended that you guys go to Eox to explore maybe connections to the corpse fleet to see what they were doing, you were contacted by the cool pirate once again, just letting you know that the bone ships that she had seen before had come by again. And that also there were a couple of bone troopers right outside your ship about to, and then the line cut, and all of the power and resources in the Spacewave Maiden shut off. The emergency lights came on, and you guys realized that while you were parked on this asteroid comet, you were being boarded. There was a large, explosion in the back of the ship near the engine room that you heard, and the only thing that you could do was go back there and fight your way out of being boarded. That was not in the book. That was at a time, what was actually supposed to happen was you guys were going to take off to go to Eox. I didn't really feel like you had enough reason besides finding out about the corpse fleet and talking to Chiskisk. It was kind of wishy-washy. Like, it was a really shot-in-the-dark lead. So what I did was, instead of doing what the book said, which was have a starship fight with necrogliders, which we weren't exactly sure how to do, I just scrapped that, threw a bunch of bone troopers on your ship, and said, you're in trouble because the Eoxians want to kill you. And it worked. Unfortunately, what I didn't realize was that one of these Eoxians was wearing something called skitterhide armor. Yeah. And that I would be giving this armor to one of my players who was level 5 at the time, I think.
I think so.
And it was level 9 armor. So sort of immediately after joining the campaign, Clara gained this extremely high level armor, and it threw her armor class above 30, I think, immediately.
Yeah.
Which is, you know what? It's fine. I goofed. You know what? Everybody had a good side. If you do something like that in your game, don't take it away from them. Just hurt everybody else worse and make them have to avoid fighting so that they can save their friend. That's how you take them out of the fight.
Yeah.
Big brain.
Big brain. Mm-hmm.
So with that, the helpful pirate helped you avoid having your ship blown up. You were very easily able to repair the small amount of damage to the Spacewave Maiden, and you were able to take off and fly to Eox. Who wants to tell me what Eox is like?
Sucks.
Anybody want?
It sucks so much.
Yeah.
It's a wealth of knowledge of profane magics that I am not allowed to learn.
I still want to know what the Spacies is like.
So, Eox, it's the worst. what is Eox? Eox is one of the planets in the Pax Worlds. It is the home of all of the... I shouldn't say that. It is the ancestral home of the Eoxians. Eox was originally not a dead planet. It is now a dead planet. The reason that Eox is a dead planet is because the Eoxians had trouble with their neighbors who lived on a pair of planets called the Twins. And the Twins were just always getting in the way. So what Eox decided to do was they were going to blow those planets up. And they did. Unfortunately, after they blew those planets up, it destroyed their own planet. And the only way that they as a society could survive on a dying planet with no atmosphere was to make themselves and all of their citizens undead. They perfected the art of undeadery. They continued as a society. They technologically advanced themselves so that they could build things like spaceflight, as well as very, very small pockets of safety for living creatures. On Eox, you can live as a living creature, usually in indentured servitude, until one day you yourself will become an undead. It is not a great deal. It is way better on paper than what it seems like in real life. It is usually involves working your hands to the bone, literally, and then just being like, well, I'm already bones. Might as well be more bones. The reason that I think Eox is so interesting is because in Pathfinder lore, there is an event called Earthfall. Earthfall is when the meteor shower that decimated a lot of the Pathfinder continents happened. There are some who think that Earthfall was directly caused by the destruction of the Twins in the war against Eox. There are also some who think that the diaspora is the remnants of those twin planets that were at war with Eox. Earthfall in Pathfinder is when the Starstone fell from the sky. The Starstone being very important. It has the power to make a mortal being into a god. At this time in Starfinder lore, the Starstone, which was originally on Galarian, is now in the reactor of Absalom Station. The Eoxians, for a time, were very excited about the idea of undead supremacy, and they attempted to bring everybody else in the Pax Worlds under the rule of undead supremacy, to the point of, after the gap, they attacked Absalom Station. Fortunately, the automatic sentries around Absalom Station fought back, and they were not able to defeat or make the station submit. After that is when the Pax World agreement was signed, and everybody decided that they were going to be friends. Eox was the first government to sign the Absalom Pact.
Like, hey guys.
Yeah. Ooh. Whoops. However, there was a sect of the Eoxian Navy that said, no, this is bullshit. We are going to go rogue as what is known as the Corpse Fleet, and we are going to continue our quest for undead supremacy. Currently, the Eoxian government's official stance against the Corpse Fleet is that it rebukes it. And there are organizations in the Eoxian government detailing the movements of the Corpse Fleet, as well as sending those reports off to the government on Absalom Station, the Pax Worlds government, through ambassadors like our good friend Grevel Askenor. Your approach to Eox had you land in the second biggest city, which is called Orphis. Once you got there, you had to make your contact, who was named Juanita Trux, who was the head of a bureaucratic section of Eox called the Ministry of Eternal Vigilance, which took all of the rumors and sightings of the Corpse Fleet, vetted them for legitimacy, and compiled them, and then sent them out to the government to be sent out to the government of the Pax Worlds. Of the Pact Worlds, excuse me. Not Pax Worlds is... It's Pax's world, baby.
That's just Vesk 1 through
Infinite. Vesk 1 through 9?
Living in it, baby. Yeah.
As you got off the ship, you were greeted by a bone trooper, and at the time we were still doing the bit of Zib Beverage asking people, "Oh, I'm Zib Beverage, you know who I am." And finally, someone recognized Zib Beverage, and it was the dock guard bone trooper that greeted you guys as you came off of the ship. So you guys get off of the Space Wave Maiden. You high five Ginger Sear. She says, "I'll have that invoice for you as soon as you guys get back." You hear her turn to Shepard and say, "Where do we keep the printer ink?" The door closes, and you guys are officially landed on Eox.
Are you sure that they're not staring at us because they recognize Zib Beverage?
So Pax make a diplomacy, or not? Pax make a perception check.
All right.
To get to perceive everybody perceiving. Okay, you think that everybody is staring at you guys because you're celebrities.
Makes sense. That's why they stare at us in Absalon.
So Zib, as you're exiting the Space Wave Maiden, you're walking through the spaceport. You're kind of like, Pax notices that everybody is looking at you. Pax thinks it's because you are a celebrity. In reality, it's because you are a living, breathing human, or a living, breathing, sentient being that is not undead. But as you're exiting, there's a corpse folk guard who's guarding the spaceport, and they turn to you and they go, "Oh, hey, you're Zib Beverage."
Oh, hi. Nice to meet you.
Why are you here?
Oh, just on some important and also classified, important business, Starfinder stuff.
All right. Can I get you to sign me an autograph?
Oh, of course. Of course.
He pulls out... So, undead people don't need to breathe, but he takes in the sharpest breath of air in reaction to that pun, and he pulls out a marker and he wants you to sign his rifle.
Oh, sick.
And he says, "Can you put 'I never miss' on it?"
Yeah, I sign his rifle, never miss, and I talk up how excited I am to be on his homeworld. Eox seems like a beautiful planet.
Yeah, it's so he's a bone trooper, much like the one that you fought before. They're also there's corpse fleet and non-corpse fleet bone troopers. So you're standing there having this conversation with him, and he's like, yeah, it's a really cool place to be, I guess, if you're not alive, but you're alive, so that's like super weird. Why are you here?
Again, can't really go into details, but it's like a work trip. It's a lot of. It's not even that interesting.
He leans in and he's like, "Is it corpse fleet?" And
this dude would have seen the posts.
He's like, "Is it corpse fleet stuff?"
It might be.
Whoa!
Can't confirm or deny, man. And dab, like high five.
Yeah. You guys high five 7 times in a row. You create your own secret handshake, and he's like, "All right, man. All right, yeah. So in case you needed to know, the Ministry of Eternal Vigilance, where they gather all of Corpse Fleet reports, not that you would need that, is down there around the corner." Yeah. Immediately best friends, Zib signed their gun. I think they wrote on it, "I never miss." And because of that, you guys were welcomed pretty warmly onto Eox and sent off about your business. Instead of going immediately to the Ministry of Eternal Vigilance, like good little boys and girls, you decided that you were going to go shopping first. First, you went to the Sunrise space to meet a very fancy ghoul whose name was Jonesworth Langful. You walked in and you saw this zombie with patched together fancy clothes, as well as another head stitched to the side of his head, who he only referred to as his assistant.
Hey, it was also a really good place to hide in during a fight.
It was also, turns out, a really good place to hide. He had a disdain for the living, but did not refuse to serve you. I don't think you guys actually bought anything. You went down the street. You walked right past the building you were supposed to go into, and you went to the Bonesmith Boutique, who was run by the pirate Bonesmith Jacqueline, where Zib Beverage bought handfuls of holy water grenades. After your little shopping adventure, you went finally to the Ministry of Eternal Vigilance, and you talked to Juanita Trucks, who was a jaded ghoul who had originally grown up studying Eox, and once she had made the decision through talking with her friend Greblesk Nor, she was going to go through the process of becoming a ghoul and work the rest of her days at the Ministry of Eternal Vigilance on Eox. She was very over it by the time you guys showed up. She gave you a couple leads and also gave you her spare office to put cots and mattresses down in so that you guys could sleep, because that's a thing that living people need to do and a thing that undead people don't. The first place you investigated was the home of a retired bone trooper. You went just to see what's up, and you got there. The door was slightly ajar. You walked into a stranger's home and demanded to know what was going on, as several people were having an argument. They, rightfully so, said, "Who the fuck are you? You just walked into a stranger's home." And you tried to say that you were doing some sort of conflict resolution, but it didn't go so well, and you ended up fighting. During the fight, Clara shot a guy in the head so hard that it exploded. And because of that, the fight immediately stopped.
As they tend to.
And the ghouls were like, "Man, what the fuck?" And left you guys. The person that you had gone to see was not pleased. She explained to you that the ghouls were from the Eoxian Navy, and they were Corpse Fleet sympathizers. And they had found out that the retiree had tipped off the Ministry of Eternal Vigilance that the retiree's roommate had skipped town to go join the Corpse Fleet. They had come to confront her about where her loyalties really lie, and what she said was she only wanted to uphold the legitimacy of Eox's government, but in doing so, when you guys came in, because you heard an argument and what was possibly going to be a fight, you did just break into a person's house, basically, and start a fight. So she wasn't real pleased with you guys. So you had a great time at the retiree's house. You then decided to pop over to the Fleshworks factory. The Fleshworks factory was a facility that grew pounds and pounds of flesh in these vats that would then take them up the flesh elevators to be processed into either food for the undead citizens or undead flesh for the use of necrographs. Necrographs being very cheap bioware enhancements for your body that would, instead of attaching to your body, they would grow onto the undead flesh, and that undead flesh would then replace yours. Apparently, this was cheaper than regular enhancements. None of you decided that you wanted one, which was totally cool. When you got to the Fleshworks factory...
Folks are fun.
When you got to the Fleshworks factory, you were greeted by a man who told you that one of the vats had been stolen. Somebody had robbed the vat. When you went in to investigate it, you found a discarded bone spur as well as another patch from the Corpse Fleet. You brought this information back to Juanita. On your way back, you got into a fight with two more creatures. I believe they were called Nihili. They were undead creatures that were born after a horrible death in a vacuum, I believe is what happens with the Nihili. And they have an ability that if you can see them, you have to make a probably a will save, or else you feel the pain of rapid decompression in your own lungs. They make you live this experience.
I was trying to figure out like what that effect, like why it was happening, but yeah,
it's an ability that they have. I don't know if it's an aura or a gaze ability. I don't know what it's exactly classified as, but if you can see them every round, you have to make this will saving throw, or you take damage from experiencing. You feel like you can't breathe. You feel this crushingness in your chest, and you can't breathe. So after you fought the Nihili, it became clear that someone knew you were here. You were asking questions. You were taking a look around the place. When you got back to Juanita, she had tipped you off, actually. Before that happened, you had gone to the Fleshworks factory, then to Juanita, then to the retiree's house, then to the Nihili fight. And the first time you went back, you got a tip from Juanita that there might be someone after you around here, so just be careful. And what that did was it gave you guys a perception bonus for the first round of combat so that you weren't surprised. I think half of you were surprised. After you went over all the information with Juanita, the retiree's roommate running away, the marrow blight spur, the bone spur, which you guys correctly identified as being from a marrow blight, as well as the corpse fleet patch, led you to a person named Zarantha Mortrant.
Mm.
When you gave all the information to Juanita Truck, she went through all of her stuff, and she said that the only marrow blight that she knew of was Zarantha Mortrant, who wasn't really a people person, and doubly so if they were still alive. While you were also there, this is really important, she gave you a docket of names and a dossier of people that could possibly be in the corpse fleet. She gave you this because in book 1, you made a choice of returning to Absalom Station, giving back the box, and telling no one.
Get the fuck out. Okay.
Because of that, Grevelask Nor liked you guys, so he decided to help you out more than he was legally required to. Forwarded this docket of information to you guys, which comes into play later. She hands you this. I didn't tell you guys that because you didn't need to know, because I knew I was going to tell you now.
That's good to know.
She gave you this list of names, and as you look through them, it meant fucking nothing to you. Like, it's funny because the book says she gives you names, yet they mean nothing to the players. And it's like, all right, cool, great. None of them are Zarantha Mortrant.
From around the block.
Yeah, it's like, oh, that's key. So you guys decided that you were going to trek out into the Eoxian wilderness to find Zarantha Mortrant. Zarantha Mortrant lived in what could only be described as a skin shack. When you did eventually get close to the hut, you could tell that it was made out of crafted bones and stretched skin. But before you could actually get into the hut, on your approach, you noticed behind it a 50-foot tall, 20-ton radioactive elephant. So, the fight with the Elikoth, whose name was Trampleram. At the time, you guys were level 6. It's a CR 9, which means it is a very hard encounter for you guys. However, because of the way that the math works out in Starfinder, if it's like 3 levels above your average party level, it's hard because you can't hit it, and it hits you harder than you can hit it, and that's what makes it difficult. Which is why when I balance encounters, I like to put 2 equal combatants against you, because it makes them both hittable and equally dangerous as you. But the Trample Ram is a CR 9. You guys were level 6. That means that a party of average party level 6 would have a fine time fighting something that is a CR6. So if it's CR9, it's a bad time. The Elikoth had a radioactive aura around it, which I'm sure that one of you correctly identified what it was when you were approaching it. And it was probably Horatio, and I know why. Because Horatio, you could see the radioactivity coming off of it. Because you had cast that on yourself because you knew that Eox was radioactive.
Yep.
You decided very smartly. I think that's where we ended that session so that we could talk about what we were going to do. Because I was not entirely sure how radioactivity worked, because it is a special thing. It is both a poison and a disease. Luckily, in the time between that session, what we learned is that you can upgrade your armor to give you better protection, that your armor of a certain level gives you basic protection against radioactivity, and that you can buy rat-out serums that give you a bonus against it, and all of those things stack. As well as Zib reaching level 6, realizing that they have an ability called Celebrity that they can use to find someone to help us with the radioactivity problem. So what did you do? You went on the forums and you found someone to come to Orphis, to the Ministry of Eternal Vigilance, and cast Resist Radioactivity on all 4 of you.
Really? Okay.
And who was it but Jimothy Tibula? You guys were standing out front of the Ministry of Eternal Vigilance when a space cab pulled up. A very small skeleton stepped out of the back. As he did, he was so excited that his foot fell off. He put his foot underneath his arm and used that as a crutch to quickly make his way down the rest of the street to meet his hero, Zib Beverage. And in front of you was a Dickensian orphan bone boy. This very small skeleton boy lands in a space taxi. He gets out, and you can see that he looks like if you took a Dickensian orphan, but then replaced him with a skeleton. That's how he's dressed.
The little skeleton babies from Dark Souls 1.
He looks like he's about he's about 5 foot. You can't really tell what type of creature he was before, but he is a sort of shorter and more childlike, jovial skeleton boy. And he jumps out of the cab, and you can hear his feet click clacking across the stone streets as he runs up to the ministry and bursts through the door and immediately says, "Where is Zib Beverage?"
Oh my god, it's Sans Undertale.
I'm just imagining this little skeleton orphan boy using his own leg as a crutch.
Yes. Yeah, he's got one leg not in his socket, and he's got it flipped upside down, so the foot is flat, and he's leaning on it and running down the street looking for Zib Beverage. Jimothy Tibula was a huge fan of Zib Beverage and had been following him for a long time. Zib spoke to Jimothy in Eoxian for the first time. It was the first time that Zib had ever used their Eoxian training from night school, and because of that, Jimothy was just so excited to help that he didn't charge you guys anything. All he wanted to do was be part of the adventure with Zib, which he did. But he was clearly also a child who was a skeleton. But with that, you guys had collected enough radioactive protection to go and fight this thing. And I think it was around that time that I realized, oh, yeah, armor gives you basic radioactivity protection, so we didn't need most of that. But it's good that we got it. So you guys were all ready to fight the Elikoth. The Elikoth was a much deadlier foe than the radiation levels let off. It had a gore attack that got a plus 22 to attack and would do something between 20 and 30 points of damage.
Yep.
Very quickly.
I was going to say, how did you guys beat this?
Very quickly.
Beat?
You guys, yeah, you survived the encounter, which is like beating it.
Okay.
Very quickly, you realize that this fight was not going very well. So what you decided to do was Pax hit it and then ran away from it. And I forget exactly why, but I had it follow Pax, and then once Pax realized that it was following him, he kept doing it until he was having the thing chase him around the wasteland in the background of the skin shack.
Mm-hmm.
While that was happening, Clara, Zib, and Horatio, I was playing Horatio, went into the skin shack and fought Zarantha Mortran. Zib tried to run in and just grab the first thing that they saw, which happened to also be the right thing. But as they did, Zarantha Mortran jumped out and attacked Zib, and the three of them had to, the three remaining Starfinders had to fight Zarantha in her house. Once you guys killed her, Horatio, you took her Street Sweeper Thundershock shotgun, which is why you have that now. And you also grabbed a backpack. When Zib went into the skin shack, they got in there and they looked at everything and they realized that not only were the walls made out of stretched skin and bone spurs, all of the furniture was also made out of stretched skin and bone spurs. And actually all of the plants out back were just like stems of bone with then stretched skin wrapped around it to make it look like a bush. So the first thing that they grabbed was a bag that was made out of a stomach. And then they ran out. While that was happening, Pax was fucking around with the Elikoth in the field. I wasn't exactly sure how to play it because I liked the idea of keeping the Elikoth busy because there was no way that you guys were going to win. I think this was probably at the time when the numbers weren't really great for Starfinder, so something wasn't mathing up, and I was not confident that you guys were gonna survive, especially and fighting Zarantha at the same time.
Yeah, I was gonna say like the giant radioactive. You don't think Pax could one-on-one the giant radioactive?
I never. Here's the thing: is I didn't really look at it. I saw CR9. You guys are level 6. This will be fine. You'll fight it. It'll be nasty. Then you'll have a smaller fight. I did not think it was going to be this impenetrable radioactive elephant. So eventually, I had Pax get tired. I took Pax's Constitution modifier and I said, okay, you've done this for like 4 rounds already. You have this many rounds left before you are too tired to continue outpacing the Elikoth. Because Pax also has this ability where they can move really well in heavy armor, and he can do like extra saves on forced marches and things. So I just let him do it for a couple rounds so that I could get it away from you guys. And you guys could fight Zarantha. Eventually, the Elikoth lost interest. It started to make its way back to the skin shack because Clara shot it. Pax pulled out his gun and shot it. And it slowed down but didn't stop. Pax shot it again and then came up with a daring plan. Pax took his carbon steel blade and he jammed it into the ground, glamoring it so that it looked like a ejected radioactive coil, which was a thing that we have never said exists on the show before. And he's just like, yeah, like when you're in a starship and you have to eject the used radioactive coil. And I went, makes perfect sense. And then I allowed him to use his Wildwise throat fungus ability to crudely communicate with the Elikoth that there was a large amount of radioactivity in front of him that could be used as food. Pax looked at this thing and made a guttural yell, meaning food in whatever language that the Elikoth spoke.
I'm going to take the carbon steel blade and jam it directly into the ground. Then I'm going to use the glamored fusion seal to make it look like a big radioactive, like, cooling rod.
What the fuck?
Okay. All right. Everything seems cool right now. Then I'm going to use the wordwise throat to yell at the Elikoth, hey, there's food over here, since we know that it likes radiation. and I'm hoping that it's going to do something with that, and I'll probably just sprint in the opposite direction if it comes after it. Now, I can use my called fusion seal to get it back to my hand within 100 feet. I don't think you're going to allow this.
I don't think it's that stupid. But the plan is so stupid that...
And that it just might work.
That it just might work. I don't know what a radioactive cooling rod looks like, but I think we can all just agree that that is a thing that would exist.
It's the Simpsons inanimate carbon rod.
Well, yeah, plutonium.
So you jam your sword into the ground, and you activate the glamour fusion, and it changes to look like a metal cylinder that inside of which is a probably like 3-foot version of the weird green metal tube that falls into Homer's pocket, and it has locks on it and everything. And just for like good measure, it's glowing green, and it has like some green mist coming off of it.
I appreciate
those are, you can't see radiation, but to make it, so what they did was they made this housing, and when they detected when they made the housing for it, they enchanted it so that it would detect radiation, and when it detects radiation, it puts a hologram around it of a misty green to let everybody know that it's radiation. It's a safety effect.
It is. That's smart.
So you do this. This is going to take your whole turn. You're not going to be able to run away. You conjure this thing, and you yell with your loudest guttural yell that there's food over there. But you do it in this kind of like guttural barking that comes out of the throat fungus at the Elikoth. So you're going to have to make a check.
Yep. This is the part where this falls apart.
You have to make a diplomacy check.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh my god. So, Pax,
Wow.
you create the illusion of a radioactive cylinder far away from where this creature is. And then you yell at it that there is a radioactive cooling rod right in front of you, and you're just standing there like this with your hands out and just and the Elikoth completely turns its attention away from Zib and looks at you. And it's now its turn, and it sprints towards this thing. God. And Pax Duro rolled a natural 20 on his diplomacy check. And that is the only reason that worked, because it wasn't... That's not in the rules. None of that makes any sense. But it was a great plan, and he rolled a natural 20. I could not take that away. So what happened was the Elikoth ran back, ate the sword as Pax... Clara, Zib, and Horatio ran the other way, and once they were far enough away, the Elikoth decided not to give chase, decided to just dick around in the backyard of its skin shack, and Pax was able to recall the sword, teleporting it back to his hand as they left. That's how they beat the Elikoth. And I was so like, that's not going to work. Fuck, it worked. Well, I guess fuck me. I hate how good that plan is. While you were on your way back after the Skin Shack incident and the Elikoth, you went through Zarantha Mortrant's belongings. You very easily cracked into her datapad, and you saw a series of communications between her and someone named Ziravesh. Ziravesh, as it turned out, was a corpse fleet officer that was operating on Eox. And all of that information was laid bare in this back and forth messaging. So what you guys said to do was craft a fake message and send it through a space VPN to make it seem like the message came from Zarantha, to send it to Ziravesh, telling Zira that the Starfinders, you guys, have been taken care of. And you guys rolled so poorly. All of you all at once. I had all four of you make a bluff check, and then Horatio make a computer's check to properly set up the space VPN. You all rolled under like a 13 for the bluff check, and Horatio failed the computer hacking check. So what we described as happening was Clara is holding the data pad, and everybody is looking over her shoulder, telling her what things to add and how to write the message. And then she hands it to Horatio, who then drops it and forgets to put the VPN. And it's from I think it was from like Horatio at the starfinders.com.
You know how,
Something like that.
You know how like when you're typing something and you're trying to listen to somebody talk and then you accidentally type the thing that they just said?
Yes.
It was exactly that.
Yes. You all knew that you didn't do it real well because you said it and you're like, whoa.
Well, we
Maybe we shouldn't have put so many emojis. I don't know.
Just the skull emoji.
And the prayer name.
Next time, like somehow found a winking frown and put that next to an eggplant.
So there was one last leg of your journey, and it was to return to Orphis. The way that you were going to return to Orphis was a slightly different way that you had gone, just because of the way that the wasteland is set up, because of all the hills and the destruction. And you came across a different valley that you hadn't gone past when you went out. As you came to this valley, you went down, and while you were in the cavern, a bone ship landed and straddled the canyon over top of you guys. As the bone troopers from the bone ship rappelled down into the canyon, you realized that these were not dressed the same way as the bone troopers that you had seen in Orphis. These bone troopers were dressed slightly differently with the regalia of the corpse fleet, which is specific. In front of them was a pale blue creature who was also clearly an undead, who was leading them, but by leading them, she was hopping every 5 feet. Her legs seemed to be stuck together, and instead of walking towards you, she would just hop. One of you, I think it was probably Claire,
correctly, I have the highest occult skill.
Correctly identified this creature as a Zhang Shi, which is a hopping vampire from Chinese folklore?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. The conversation that you guys had, one was very insulting to you because she got your email, and she was insulted that you guys would even try something like that. What she said was, "There's no way. I thought that there was no way that you possibly could have tried something that stupid, and yet you did, and here you are." The way that this encounter is set up is that she was going to push you with her bone troopers into this canyon and fight you. I needed something different to happen because you guys were at half health. Mm-hmm. And there was because you guys just fought the fucking radioactive elephant thing. And you guys needed some sort of assistance. So her and the 5 bone troopers push you guys into this canyon. At the end of the canyon is a giant pool of acid, and over top of the giant pool of acid is your best friend. Shepard the robot is tied hands and legs over top of this acid pool. And then Jin Dersier was also there, who had also been captured or whatever.
And is also
that was
at the time still our very good friend.
I do believe our reaction was exactly that.
It was that.
No,
it was
Shepard.
Oh no, Shepard, and I guess Jin is here too.
All right, yeah.
After some back and forth bantering, I let the villain monologue a little bit to give you guys some time to come up with a plan. You were all talking secretly in a encrypted channel in your headsets, which I assume is a thing.
Sure.
She was loudly proclaiming how her plan had worked, and Stellar Degenerator this, and Corpse Fleet that, and Undead Supremacy, yada, 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 as she walks up the stairs to Shepard and Ginger's here. As she's doing that, Shepard is talking to you guys in his robot brain to your encrypted comms. And he said that Juanita Trucks had given you guys a list of names. The list of names included Ziravesh, the list of names that was given to you by Grevelask Nor. So what Shepard did was he researched as much as he could Ziravesh before he was captured, and he found out a large amount of information in addition to the information that Clara knew about the Jiangshi in general. Mm-hmm. Clara, I think, got to learn 2 key pieces of information, and Shepard gave you guys the rest of it. Specific damage immunities. Clara knew about the boiled rice, the bell, the mirror. A Jiangshi can be held at bay with a mirror, the sound of a ringing bell, or a bowl of boiled rice, a bag of rice.
Yeah, you just kind of pour it on the ground, and it has to count all the pieces of rice.
Yes.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
That was just something I knew above the table for some reason. I was like, yeah, I know that.
It just says
vampires hate rice.
It says cooked rice, and so wait, it has to count it. That's amazing.
That's if I'm recalling the legend correctly. Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was uncooked rice, but yeah,
but yeah.
It is what it is.
I don't know. But also
whether it's cooked or not.
It's 4,000 years in the future. Like, it could have evolved into cooked rice. It's not that big of a deal. Also, a Jiangshi has the prayer scroll that goes in front of their face. The Jiangshi in Starfinder has a holographic prayer scroll that goes down in front of her face.
So they have a smartphone stuck to their forehead.
So they literally have a
swipe and they go away.
You got games on that scroll?
Yeah. You got games on that prayer scroll? Yo, I like that kind of rice. So, the villain is monologuing, and Shepard is transmitting all of this weakness information to you guys. And the fight sort of commences. What happens is the Jiangshi kicks Shepard off of the pillar, or not the pillar, off of the edge over the pool of acid, and Shepard falls immediately not immediately, but within 1 round into the pool of acid, and the fight starts. And you guys are at a real fucking disadvantage because you are surrounded. They have the high ground. Your best friend is about to fall into acid, and you are at half health.
And also Jin is there.
And also you should probably rescue Jin. Yeah. I mean, I feel like an employer-employee relationship, you kind of...
It's a lot of paperwork if she dies.
Right. You gotta... I mean, like, and who do you call?
The union will be on our ass.
The security officer union.
Whole thing.
So Shepard falls into a pool of acid, but not before his head shoots off of his body and a data chip shoots out of his mouth and falls at the feet of Zib Beverage, which we came up with 5 seconds before it happened. Steph messaged me and was like, hey, I don't know if you're going to see this, but I have this really funny idea for if Shepard falls in the acid. His head should pop off and he should shoot his data drive at me, because that's not what I was going to do. I was just going to have him die. But I was going to have him die, and then like the data drive would be like, the space wave made it. But I hadn't mentioned that, but Steph was like, yeah, I imagine. Remember that scene in Star Wars where R2-D2 chucks the lightsaber out and Luke Skywalker grabs it? Like that, but with a data drive. And that's exactly what we made happen. Zib grabbed the data drive, and you guys did glorious combat. But you guys weren't doing super well. You were doing okay at best. Pax had charged up the stairs to try to confront the Jiangshi. The Jiangshi was taking trick shots at all of you guys, was making you flat-footed and then shooting you with a sniper rifle, doing an incredible amount of damage. About 4 or 5 rounds into the fight, you had been hearing this very loud, growing rumble, and as it crescendoed, another bone ship flew, much smaller than the first one, flew over the canyon, and a bag fell out of it and directly at the feet of Zib Beverage. The ship passed the canyon and turned and seemed to land on the other side. The next turn, rappelling down the side of the canyon wall, which was made entirely out of skeletons, which I forgot to mention that. It's called Skullcap Gorge, and it was made entirely out of... They had enough skeletons that once they piled them all up, they just kept piling and compacting that they became literal walls of bones. And then there's an acid pool too, because why not? Down the side of this bone wall comes a skeleton pirate named Bonesmith Jacqueline, an owner of the Bonesmith's Boutique, who you guys had met with earlier. A very rousing introduction for herself, as well as a previously unnamed NPC who was the person that you guys had met when you first got off of the Space Wave Maiden in Eox. Zib's best friend, Guy. A very familiar bone trooper, who I realized today that we never actually gave a name to him. The person that Zib met out front of the Space Wave Maiden and signed his gun. Zib's friend, Guy. Guy the Bone Trooper. Bonesmith Jacqueline and Guy the Bone Trooper rappel down the side of the bone walls, screaming a battle cry of pure victory and hatred towards the corpse fleet. As they land, this is going to be their... they're just going to always go... Actually, I'm going to roll them new initiative. As they land, Bonesmith Jacqueline points to the bag, and she goes, "You got a couple of war crimes in that bag there, sonny."
They're only war crimes if you get war caught.
Zib's friend Guy and Bonesmith Jacqueline joined you in the fight, as well as resupplying Zib with a pack of holy grenades to use against the members of the corpse fleet. At some point during this, Pax had reached the top of the ledge, had gotten to where Jinder Seer was, had cut her binds, and immediately ran away, leaving a rifle at her feet. Pax had gone to keep the Jiangshi at bay. He had the brilliant idea of using the glamored sword once again to give it a mirror sheen and use it to hold the Jiangshi back. Now, when we did it, glamoring is a swift action, so I just let you do it on that turn, but the rules say that you have to use an action to hold the Jiangshi back. So after that, you had to use it as an action. But I thought that was cool enough that you could just run up and do it, because you took 2 movements and then a swift action to do that. So I thought that was appropriate enough. The Jiangshi ran away from you. You cut Jin out of her bindings, left her a rifle, and gave chase. As you were making your way back down the stairs, the Jiangshi was ripping you guys apart.
Literally.
And Jinder Seer set up her rifle at the top of the ledge and took a shot into the battle that was happening. Instead of shooting the Jiangshi, she shot Horatio while he was already on the ground. It is Jinder Seer's turn. You see Jin take a knee and use her front arm, her arm to rest the sniper rifle on, like she has seen Clara done so many times. And as she's lining up a shot at Zira Vesh, she pulls the trigger. And shoots Horatio.
Why?
And does 12 damage to Horatio.
Like on purpose?
Like on purpose.
That
Nice.
killed me. So I'm dead now.
Why did I give her the gun?
Knocking him out, bringing him below 0 HP, and putting him in danger of dying. It was then that Bonesmith Jacqueline finally got it through to you guys that she had been trying to warn you that Jin was no longer on your side. I had decided that was going to happen when the gun was dropped at her feet. That was not my plan going in. But when that happened, I saw the perfect opportunity to make it a little bit spicier. So I did. However, there are still many unanswered questions that go with the switching sides of Ginger's here. She continued to shoot at you guys a couple more times and then turned herself invisible like all good operatives do and ran away. You guys finished the fight and put an end to Zira Vesh. When a Zhangxi dies, they turn into a big pile of ash, and on top of that pile of ash was the holographic prayer scroll that also served as her personal computer and terminal. Oh, I forgot something. Very importantly, there was one holy grenade left, and they were in hand-to-hand combat. Zib was with the Zhangxi, and Bonesmith Jacqueline ran up and pulled a holy grenade out of Zib's pack.
Yeah,
pulled the pin, and then just stood there, spraying everybody around them for 4d6 holy damage. Luckily, Bonesmith Jacqueline hadn't taken any damage, and the Zhangxi was very close to was already very close to dying. While Zib is grappled, Bonesmith Jacqueline is going to reach into Zib's bag and grab the last holy grenade. And she's gonna hold it in front of her, and she's gonna say, I always wondered what this would feel like. And she's gonna pull the pin and just hold it until it explodes.
Oh wait, Jacqueline survived?
Yeah, no, Jacqueline lived. Well,
oh shit. Okay.
Unlived. Yeah, there wasn't enough. Yeah, she pulled the pin and she's like, oh, yeah, I always wondered what this would feel like. And then she just stood there.
We thought that was like Jacqueline's hero moment.
Well, it was, because like she could have fucking died, but she just didn't.
Oh, okay. Well, for them. Yeah, real proud of them.
So suddenly things have gotten much more complicated for the crew of the Space Maiden. That was where we ended the session. You had defeated the Corpse Fleet operative, and in the beginning of Season 2, I will give you the once-over of everything that was on the Prayer Scroll data drive. The Prayer Scroll of the Zhangxi and the data drive of Shepard. You guys had defeated all of the encounters that I had put in front of you for Book 3, your adventure on Eox, Dead Sun's Splintered Worlds. And for that, you got to go to level 7. And that is where we will be starting when we pick up play again next week. I'm
excited, because it is rare for me to get a paizo character to this level.
Next week, 7 p.m., we will be recording the first episode of Season 2, which will start with Dead Sun's Book 4.
Yay.
That session will be cut up into 2 episodes, the first of which will be released onto YouTube, edited, and, no extra stuff, just edited, for easier watching and consuming on June 27th. And on June 27th is our show's birthday, and that is when we are going to release Season 2, Episode 1 of Dead Sundays. I think now is the time where we say goodbye. Paizo, thank you for making Starfinder and Pathfinder. Players, thank you for playing. Viewers, thank you for viewing. Roll20, thank you for making your program. Stereoscape, thank you for making your sounds. OBS, thank you for making your program. Anybody else that I missed, we also love you, obviously. We will be back 7 p.m. next week for the first episode of Dead Sunday Season 2. There will be... it's going to look like this. It's going to be sick. We're going to come in. We're going to be in space. Everybody's going to love it. It's going to be great. So if anybody doesn't... if nobody else has anything else they want to add, now is going to be the time that we are going to look at the camera and wave and say goodbye and play the outro. Let's all look at the camera and wave and say goodbye and look at the outro.
Goodbye.
When you're coming from the border, you want a place that reminds you of home. You want traditional foods like our Eoxians, cadaver digits, fresh fried, heavy recycled, or tacos made the the spath anyway. Flavored with real asteroid sauce. With quality finding up with a syndicate, but at prices any corporate collar can afford. So after you dock, head over to the Eye. We're open all cycle, every cycle. Ready to treat you like family, hive mind, or brood clutch. Spacies, you're gonna like the food you eat from the restaurant that I own.